Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is Keith Weiner, founder and CEO of Monetary Metals. Welcome back, Keith.
Hey Ivan, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing today?
Life's good. Life is good.
That's good. That's good. It's exciting in the precious metals world right now. Silver, as of yesterday, hit $35. Now we're hitting 30. We're flirting with the $36 mark. How big of a deal is this breakout? And could it be a start to an even bigger rally?
It could be. I think if I recall what I said in we do an annual gold market outlook report, which I write in kind of late January, early February, and I think we put it out by late February. And I said that gold is very bullish. Of course, remember the price was a lot lower then. I said, gold could hit $3,600. That seems a little bit less radical now than at that time. And if
Right.
that happens, then we could see, I said I'm less bullish on silver, we could see 37 on silver. So here we are at 36, and obviously we hit 2,500 or 3,500, excuse me, on gold. Um, so we calculate what we call a fundamental price, which is a model, and I always have to caveat this with all models are wrong, some models are useful. We have a model, with that being said, that attempts to back out the actions of speculators. It says, okay, if we just had metal clearing, where would the price be?
Right.
That fundamental price, so-called, has been moving up in silver from mid-January, where it hit just a hair over $30, and it's now a hair over $36.
Right.
So that's been a bullish, move. So in January, that was considerably below market, obviously, and now it's just a hair above market. Um, gold, its fundamental is over $3,700, so quite a bit above market. And that's the dynamic between the two metals. Gold is more bullish, period.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Keith, on the big beautiful bill that's trying to push through Congress and the Senate? You're 2.5 trillion dollars is trying to get passed through. They're trying to get rid of the debt ceiling level and just have no debt ceiling. There's a big feud between Elon and Trump over it. What are your thoughts on this?
I have to take that step back and say that, number one, I've been saying for 15 years, if you have an irredeemable currency, and we're forced to use credit paper as if it were money. So it's not money. People redefine money and say, well, it's whatever passes as the medium of exchange. So we're using the dollar as if it were money, but it's credit. It's a promise to pay that in the fine print says it'll never be paid. But if you're going to use an irredeemable currency, then the debt must grow, necessarily must grow exponentially. Not just grow, but grow exponentially. It has
Right.
to grow by at least the amount of the accrued interest every year, because you can never extinguish a debt with it, right? You pay a debt using another debt. You pay an IOU using an IOU. So the whole thing grows by at least the accrued interest, and actually, in practice, quite a bit more than that, because the marginal debtor has to get enough currency units in order to service their debt. Otherwise, you have big problems, like in 2008. You start to get defaults cascade. They hit a bigger balance sheet. That bigger balance sheet, that bank falls over. That causes other problems. Other entities start to fall over, and you could wipe out the financial system. So you have to increase the debt outstanding, at an exponential growth trend. And government debt, as such, not looking at private debt, but just government debt, has doubled about every 8 years since 1971. So
Wow.
you've had Republican presidents, Democrat presidents, Republican majority senates, Democrat majority senates, Republican majority houses, Democrat majority houses. You've had one party owning all three. You've had other party owning all three. You've had mixed parties, and the debt relentlessly continues. So this is the nature of the monetary system. That said, the sort of naked, well, let's just do away with the debt ceiling and let's just spend as much as we want, isn't a positive development either. Not if you care about civilization. If you want to see the gold price go up, well, I suppose that's a great way to do it. But kind of reminds me some years ago when North Korea was getting very aggressive, and somebody on Twitter actually posted if North Korea starts nuking, because their ICBMs supposedly can reach California.
US. Yeah.
So if they start nuking California, that would be good for the gold price. And I'm like, you bleeping idiot. Do you not like, yeah, okay, sure. The gold price could be $5,000, but do you really want to be in a world that like nukes are falling and dropping on our heads?
No.
And then for the survivors, the gold price is higher. I mean, this is nuts.
That's crazy.
It's kind of like saying that the value of my homeowner's insurance policy is going to go up if my house is on fire. Well, sure, that's true, but I don't really want to light my house on fire. Um, so yeah, that would be very positive. Is going to be very positive, and is being very positive for the price of gold. But no, we shouldn't call this beautiful. We should call this what it is, which is deficit spending, and this is how companies, ruin themselves.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not companies, countries go to ruin by spending what they can't afford. And what happens is it depletes capital. And none of these macroeconomic statistics really understand capital because socialists don't understand capital. It's all about just the current revenue number, the current GDP number, the current whatever. Well, if you spend more than right, so you would think it's common sense. You can't spend, you can't spend, you have to produce first and then consume.
Right.
Well, that's not entirely true. If you have savings in the form of capital, then if you don't produce anything, you just eat your savings.
Right.
That's what this is we're consuming the capital that's been accumulated over hundreds of years, and we're eating it. And that seems to go on for a long time because we've accumulated a lot of capital. It's hard to quantify this stuff, so I'm not sure anybody has an answer as to how much capital there is before you run out. But I guarantee you one thing, when you run out, you hit a brick wall. And if you look at Venezuela, there's something very interesting that happened, I think, right around the time that Chavez died and Nicolas Maduro took over. And people today say, well, what happened to the Chavez miracle?
Right.
Uh, during Chavez's time, it seemed to be working. Well, yes, that's when you're eating the seed corn and you still had more seed in the bin. And then when it depletes, it takes a decidedly darker turn. It's not working anymore. It's not that Maduro is any dumber than Chavez.
Right.
I mean, they're both, tin pot dictators. You see the video of this guy sitting there for hours and hours and hours, just boasting and thumping his chest and making all
Right.
kinds of promises, whatever. And all of his people have to stand in attention in the sun, in attendance while he sits there and eats an empanada to show to everybody, you're starving, I get to eat.
Right.
You Um,
The seed cord is depleting. That's why.
right, but anyway, depleted, and now he's
Depleted.
taken over post that, and so if people are starving there, and 20% of the population has fled or whatever it is so far, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So that's what deficit spending does if you take it that far, and clearly we are. So now we're in an era of $3 trillion deficits, and I can remember when we had $400 billion deficit under Bush, and at that time, everyone was like, "Oh my God, a $400 billion deficit! This is insane."
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit too young to remember. I was kind of a kid, teenager when Reagan, like his first term. I don't remember what the deficit was at that time, billions, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is insane." It was insane relative to the previous era, and today we look it back and say, "Oh, that's cute." Deficit
It-
of $5 billion. Oh my God. And it will look back at $3 trillion deficits in not too distant future and say, well, that was quaint compared to
yeah.
where we're going to be.
No, that's
So
crazy.
it gets worse and worse and worse. This is not good. And nobody asks my opinion on this shit other than you. So thank you. I have a chance to voice my opinion and say we shouldn't be doing this. But this is the nature of our monetary system. You have to do this or the whole thing's going to crash. And I think some of the masters of the system realize that. Most of them don't. Most of them are just playing politics. And voters love free goodies.
Yeah. They
And
abs
now with deficits, they're told that you don't have to pay for it. Modern monetary theory, which is now adopted by both left and the right, says you don't have to pay for it. It's fine. Just print money.
Yeah. If you're a gold owner, you already know about all the ways precious metals can hedge yourself against financial instability. Monetary metals is revolutionizing how people can invest in gold and silver. Right now, there's opportunities for you to earn 4% interest on your gold paid in gold in their marketplace. Now's the time to secure your wealth in an asset that the government can't inflate away. Join thousands of investors earning interest in physical gold and silver every single month with monetary metals. Grow your gold over time so that you're not just preserving, but growing your wealth in an asset that can't get inflated away by just printing more money. Visit the link in the description below to get started now. No, it's
Well, it's not
absolutely
fine. It's not fine, but they're getting away with it for now.
yeah, it's absolutely crazy, Keith. And you look at America's national debt, it's almost as large as the entire economy, and it's obviously set to keep climbing. How worried should we be about this growing debt load, and what are the most serious dangers if it continues unchecked?
We should be very worried. Number one, it's an exponential trend. When you look to nature, you don't really find lots of examples of exponential trends because they're unstable, because they grow and grow and grow faster and faster and faster exponentially until they fail catastrophically.
Right.
There was, I don't remember where in New England in the 1970s, the ecologists or whatever they were called at the time, conservationists, said, okay, well, we don't want to allow anybody to kill Bambi. So they said, no more hunting deer. And of course, by that point, the natural predators for deer were gone. And so the deer population grew exponentially. I don't know how many years this took until you had massive numbers of deer, all half starved or two-thirds starved, and therefore unhealthy, diseased, and whatever. And then the deer population collapsed, and there were a lot of deer carcasses, and whatever. And then they said, oh, we do have to have hunting to cull the deer numbers, otherwise if you had a guitarist like Jimi Hendrix hold his guitar up to the amplifier and you get that rising squeal, there's a circuit in the amplifier that stops it from growing, continuing to grow past it, just clips it at a certain point. And
No,
if it
no
didn't
way.
have that circuit, then the amplifier would catch on fire. Like exponential trends are really bad. They don't end gracefully. So here we are. And of course, the most famous, perhaps, exponential trend is a nuclear bomb going off. It grows and grows and grows exponentially, and boom, you know, the result is, massive destruction. We should be very concerned. And the problem is that modern economics has really only one diagnostic, which is, or maybe two, arguably, I guess you have GDP, or three, GDP, employment, and inflation. And so if you don't have an effect perceived on particularly consumer prices, then everyone shrugs and says, well, I guess it was okay. So on the one side, you have the Austrians saying, we're going to have hyperinflation imminently. And they've been saying that since 2008.
Yeah.
And I was there at Freedom Fest, a very famous Austrian guy, gold guy, kind of abused some of his co-panelists and said there's going to be hyperinflation by the end of the year. This is July 2009. 16 years ago, there was going to be hyperinflation, and it didn't happen. So if the only diagnostic, the only metric you care about is consumer prices, there's a lot of reasons why consumer prices can get soft, and could get soft again, by the way, although tariffs might oppose that. Um, so, what should we be looking for is a collapse in trust in the counterparty.
Right.
And I'm a big advocate of looking at the spreads in gold. And when gold goes into backwardation, if it persists and if it's big enough, then what that means is people don't trust the counterparty. So in gold backwardation, I'm going to use this. I was at a gold event here in London, and I got this. It's actually not a kilo; it's 180 grams of chocolate. I don't know if people can see this or
Oh
not.
yeah, yeah, we could see it.
So, gold when gold's in backwardation, that means you can give up your gold bar, pretend this is 100-ounce bar, and get back a piece of paper that says that we'll repay you your gold bar in a month or two,
Right.
and we'll give you a free a free bonus profit to do this. And this is considered to be risk-free because you don't have the risk of margin calls and the rest of these things. You're totally covered. There is a risk, and the risk is what if your counterparty can't deliver because they're
Mm.
insolvent? Not because, well, all the gold has been sold 100 times. I'm not talking about that. But your counterparty is insolvent. It's a bank. You're an unsecured creditor of the bank. If the bank is bankrupt, They may not honor their obligations, and one of their obligations would be, and probably one of the first ones to be dishonored, would be the gold obligations.
Right.
It's going to say, sorry, we're not. So you give up your gold for a piece of paper, and then if the paper doesn't redeem back for the gold, that was a stupid trade, and to make 2%, when people, refuse to do that for the 2%, then that's a sign that there's a collapse in trust in the counterparty. And in my paper, which is when gold backwardation becomes permanent, everybody should read that. Probably my most important essay on the internet. When gold backwardation becomes permanent. I argue that only the people who have gold actually count when it comes to voting to end the dollar. Everyone else is ballast along for the ride because you don't have a choice. Your salary is dollars, your mortgage, your car payment, your credit cards, everything's dollars, and
Right.
everything you buy in the grocery store is dollars because all of those producers, all of those farmers and truckers and shippers and manufacturers of farm equipment and makers of fertilizer and everything throughout the entire supply chain are all financed in dollars. They all have dollar-denominated debts. They need dollar-denominated revenues to service their debts. Otherwise, the bank's going to take their business and their collateral. And so they're all ballast just along for the ride. It's the owners of gold, when they refuse to take the profit, then the system is over, and then the price of gold will be rising exponentially, or at least the price of gold metal, not necessarily the price of gold futures. There'll be a divorce between the two.
Right.
The price of gold metal will be rising exponentially, and the backwardation will be growing rapidly. When that happens, it's over. And then the net result will be that consumer prices will skyrocket, the price of all the commodities, oil, etc., will skyrocket, not because the quantity of dollars is skyrocketing, maybe it will be, maybe not, but because the quality has collapsed.
Wow.
And when that happens, it's over. Now, I don't think that's happening tomorrow. I don't think that's happening next year. I think Adam Smith said there's a great deal of ruin in the nation. We still got more ruin left in us.
Yeah. It could
So
be
yes,
20, could be 20,
we're
30
ruining.
years. Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot less than that, but not a year or two.
Right.
Maybe 10. It's hard to say. And each
Mm.
one of these new destructive policies accelerates it. I
Right.
mean, I used to talk about this a lot, and I never imagined that we'd lock down the entire economy for a virus. Could
Yeah.
not have imagined that. Even in January 2020, I would have said, "What? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
Yeah.
And then it
Absolutely.
happened a couple of months later. And now, big beautiful bill. All the politics. I mean, I don't want to comment between Trump and Musk and whatever. Um, but no, the spending is insane, and both sides have their, the debt limit, so called, right? It's been raised what 70 something times.
Yeah.
It's not actually a limit. I mean, if you have the power to unilaterally raise it, it's not a limit. And if you've
That's
raised it
right.
70 times, I mean, give up the ghost already, right? But it's an opportunity for political grandstanding. It's not actually a limit. I mean, the spending policy goes on as if that limit's not there, and then every time we spend ourselves to the point where the debt capacity, so-called, is exhausted, there's a bunch of grandstanding, and politicians score points against one another, and so they
Yeah.
love that. Audiences, it's like watching, fake wrestling. I hope I'm not pissing anybody off with that. People are cheering, "Oh, that bastard! Do you see what he just did? Get him! Get him!
Right, right. Meanwhile,
Justice,
meanwhile, it's all like manufactured and it's not real.
justice for the Rock! Do you see what he just did? That rat bastard!" Right. It's completely so that the audience is cheering for blood, and everybody loves it, and it's great fun. It's very profitable. It's a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar business enterprise, right? And the
Yeah.
same thing with the grandstanding that occurs with the debt ceiling.
Wow.
And so far be it from me to take that away from them. And in my view, get rid of the damn debt ceiling. I mean, that's just completely meaningless. It is not actually a break on anything. But what we really need to do is reform not reform, but change the monetary system. And number one, repeal all the barriers to the use of gold and silver. Repeal the capital gains tax at the federal level. Recognize that if there's contracts, which they largely do, between sophisticated parties, you can specify that this is payable in metal, and there's specific performance clauses and other things you can do. But make it so that a general deposit contract or even just a simple liability between parties could be recognized. If the parties agree, allow them to denominate it in gold and silver, get rid of the taxes, and then begin, other steps to transition. Issue gold bonds. Those are a bunch of things I've proposed to start to move to a monetary system where you don't need to grow the debt exponentially,
Yeah.
But ain't nobody want that because they love free goodies.
Yeah. They love their free
So
money. They love their wars and so on. Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy, Keith. I like looking at what's happening in the world right now. It's I don't know when it'll stop. It'll never stop. Like what you said, it's just a gradual increase, and the debt will keep on rising. So it'll yeah, it's we're living in crazy times for sure. I really want people to connect with you and connect with Monetary Metals. I'm going to put the links in the description below. But before you go, where can people connect with you, Keith?
so on Twitter, I'm at Real Keith Weiner, and my company is monetary-metals.com. We're helping the world move to a gold and silver system by paying interest on gold, and the way we pay interest is by putting the gold and silver to work productively, financing productive enterprises. They pay interest, we pay the interest to clients, we make a little spread in the middle, and everyone should know that we're doing that. And even if they're not ready to put their own gold to work, I encourage everybody to follow our journey because we're doing something cool and exciting and important and changing the world.
Yeah, no, I absolutely recommend everyone watching this. Please go check out Keith's X account. I'm going to put it in the description below. Please go check out Monetary Metals. I highly, highly recommend it. And Keith, thank you so much for joining us again. I feel like today was an incredible conversation, especially with everything that's happening in the world in silver and precious metals. But as precious metals develops further, and we'll see what happens to the silver price, so keep a close eye on it. I'd love to have you back on in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.